I thought I was living, but looking back now, I realize I was only existing. My days were full, yet my heart was empty. I stayed busy so I wouldn't have to think. I stayed distracted so I wouldn't have to feel. Somewhere along the way, I stopped asking myself hard questions. I stopped caring about where my choices were leading me. I told myself I was fine. I told myself everyone lives like this. I told myself I had time to change, but time doesn't wait. Every decision leaves a mark. Some are visible, some stay hidden. Mine stayed hidden for a long time. I chased pleasure, comfort, and approval. I avoided responsibility, truth, and accountability. I knew what was right. I just didn't want to give up what felt good. Slowly, quietly, my heart began to decay. Not all decay is loud. Some of it happens in silence. I laughed when I should have listened. I ignored warnings I didn't want to hear. I hardened myself when conviction came. I thought strength meant control. I thought freedom meant doing whatever I wanted. But real freedom was slipping away. Loneliness didn't come all at once. It arrived piece by piece, moment by moment. I felt it in crowded rooms. I felt it during conversations that meant nothing. I felt it late at night when the noise faded. I filled my life with sound because silence scared me. Silence reminded me of the truth. Deep down, I knew something was wrong, but knowing isn't the same as changing. I convinced myself I could handle it. I convinced myself I could fix it later. Later never came. The pain came suddenly, without warning, without mercy. My body failed me in a moment I didn't expect. Strength vanished. Control disappeared. Fear has a way of revealing reality. It strips away pride. It exposes weakness. Each breath felt heavy. Each heartbeat felt uncertain. I realized how fragile life really is. Lying there, unable to move forward, I had nothing left to hide behind. No distractions, no excuses, only truth. I replayed my life over and over, every ignored warning, every selfish choice, every moment I chose comfort over obedience. Regret has weight. It presses down slowly. Silence became overwhelming. Time stretched endlessly. I wondered if I deserved another chance. I wondered if it was already too late. Hope felt distant. Answers didn't come quickly. Waiting changes you. It slows your thoughts. It forces you to sit with what you've avoided. I had nothing to offer. No good record. No justification. For the first time, I asked for help. Not out of pride, but out of surrender. And then something happened that I never expected. Someone else stepped in. A stranger. Someone I would never meet. Someone who owed me nothing. While I waited, they chose to give. While I feared death, they accepted it. Their life became the answer to my need. A heart was offered in place of mine. Life for life. I slept while the exchange happened. I did nothing to earn it. I did nothing to deserve it. Yet everything changed. Darkness was removed. Something new was placed inside me. When I woke up, I was still here. Breathing felt different. Morning felt different. Life felt different. Peace replaced fear. Then I learned the truth. Someone had died so I could live. That truth settled slowly. It wasn't easy to carry. How do you respond to a gift like that? Gratitude felt too small. Words felt insufficient. That heart wasn't mine. It never belonged to me. Every beat reminded me of the sacrifice behind it. I realized my life was no longer my own. That realization changed everything. I began to walk differently, think differently, choose differently. I noticed people I once ignored. I felt compassion where I once felt nothing. Every decision became intentional. Every breath became meaningful. Because my story didn't end on that hospital bed. And neither does ours. There were moments I remembered from my past that I hadn't thought about in years. Small choices that felt harmless at the time. Words I said without thinking. Opportunities to do right that I walked away from. At the time, none of them felt serious. But now I could see how they added up. I realized that decay doesn't usually come from one big mistake. It comes from many small ones. The kind you excuse, the kind you repeat. I told myself I was in control, but control was an illusion. I thought I was strong because I didn't need help. I thought I was independent because I answered to no one. But in reality, I was slowly isolating myself. There were people who tried to warn me, people who cared enough to speak truth. I brushed them off. I told myself they didn't understand me. Now, lying still, I understood them clearly. I thought about how many chances I had been given before this moment. How many times I could have changed direction. How many times grace had quietly shown up, and I ignored it. Waiting does something to your thoughts. It slows them down. It forces you to sit with what you've avoided. I started noticing things I had never appreciated before. The sound of breathing, the weight of stillness, the fact that life can stop at any moment. I realized how much I had taken for granted. I thought about my future, and for the first time, I didn't take it for granted. I didn't assume tomorrow was guaranteed. Fear teaches lessons comfort never can. As I waited, I wondered about the person who would give me their heart. I wondered what kind of life they lived, what kind of person they were. I imagined their family, their memories, their laughter. The idea that someone else's life could end so mine could continue felt unbearable. And yet, it was happening. That thought stayed with me. When I woke up, the physical pain faded faster than the weight of understanding. My body healed, but my mind kept returning to the same truth. I was alive because someone else was not. Every beat of my heart reminded me of that exchange. It wasn't just a medical procedure, it was a transfer of life. I began to understand that real love always involves sacrifice. Someone always pays the cost. That realization followed me everywhere. When I stepped outside again, the world felt sharper, colors felt brighter, sounds felt clearer. I noticed people more, their expressions, their struggles. I saw how many people were walking the same path I once walked. Busy, distracted, slowly decaying inside without realizing it. I wanted to tell them what I had learned. I wanted to warn them before it was too late. But I also knew that truth has to be received, not forced. So I chose to live differently instead. I chose patience, where I once chose anger. I chose humility, where I once chose pride. I chose obedience, where I once chose comfort. Some days were harder than others. Change didn't come instantly. But direction mattered more than speed. There were moments I failed. Moments I slipped back into old habits. But the difference was this time, I noticed. The new heart inside me wouldn't let me stay the same. I understood then that transformation isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming responsive. Every day became a question, a choice, a challenge. I began noticing the small things I had ignored for so long. The way the sunlight hits a leaf, the quiet rhythm of a street in the early morning, the subtle expressions on the faces of strangers. Life had texture I hadn't allowed myself to see before. It wasn't about what I could take from the world anymore. It was about how I could respond to it, how I could be present, how I could live with intention, not just habit. I noticed my own reactions, the old patterns that had carried me for years. Anger flared when things didn't go my way. Pride whispered that I didn't need help, that I was enough on my own. But this new awareness, this new heart, challenged every one of those impulses. I learned to pause, to breathe, to consider whether my next action was building life or destroying it. Transformation, I realized, is about vigilance. Not vigilance over others, but vigilance over the heart. Being responsive meant noticing the people around me in ways I never had before. I saw the exhaustion in the barista's eyes at the coffee shop. I noticed the tired shoulders of a stranger carrying too many burdens. I heard the unspoken loneliness in someone's voice. I realized that life doesn't wait for us to be ready. Pain exists whether we acknowledge it or not, and if we are alive, we have a chance to respond, to meet it with love, to offer a hand, a word, a presence that makes a difference. And yet, responsiveness is not effortless. It requires surrender. Every day, I was reminded that my life was no longer my own. Every heartbeat was borrowed, every breath a gift. I couldn't waste it. I couldn't spend it chasing empty pleasures or defending my comfort at the expense of others. Responsiveness asks sacrifice, and sacrifice requires courage. The courage to put someone else's need above your own. The courage to face your own brokenness without running. The courage to admit you don't have all the answers. There were days when I failed, days when I reacted poorly, spoke harshly, or retreated into selfishness. Each failure was a mirror showing me the parts of myself I still needed to surrender. And each time, I remembered the life that had been given to me. I remembered the heart that beat inside me, because someone else chose to love. Every failure became a lesson, every mistake a chance to respond differently next time. Transformation is not a single moment. It is countless tiny moments strung together, each one a choice to live differently than before. I began seeing parallels in the world beyond myself. Humanity itself is fragile. Our hearts, like mine, are prone to decay if left unchecked. We chase pleasures that don't satisfy. We cling to pride that isolates us. We run from silence and stillness that might show us the truth. But grace steps in, whether we recognize it or not. Someone always chooses. Someone always sacrifices. And we are invited to respond. Jesus' life became clearer to me in this light. He didn't wait for people to clean themselves up before offering love. He didn't demand perfection before stepping into the brokenness of the world. He entered the mess, the pain, the suffering, the decay, and he responded with life. Not for his own gain, not for reward, but because love requires action. And in his response, he gave us the example, the blueprint, for how a responsive heart operates. Grace always comes first, and our response follows. This is the rhythm I began to follow. Pause. Notice. Respond. Give. Forgive. Love. Each day I tried to listen to the world around me more attentively. Each day I tried to notice where I could extend mercy, where I could offer help, where I could bring hope. I discovered that responsiveness is a muscle. It grows stronger the more you practice it. And slowly, I felt it reshaping the way I moved through life. I realized that responsiveness also demands patience. Some people respond immediately to kindness, others take time. Some situations change instantly, others take years to shift. But responsiveness is not measured by the speed of results. It is measured by faithfulness to the heart that chooses to act. I could not control the world, but I could control my choices. I could not force change in others, but I could model a life that responded to love. Every morning, I reminded myself that life is a gift. Every heartbeat a chance to do what is right. Every encounter an opportunity to choose compassion over indifference. I practiced listening without judgment, speaking without harshness, moving without expectation. I learned that responsiveness doesn't need applause. It doesn't need recognition. It simply acts because it cannot do otherwise. A heart that has been given a second chance cannot ignore the call to give life forward. I also realize that responsiveness transforms the responder as much as it transforms the world. Every time I extended mercy, I felt lighter. Every time I chose patience, I felt steadier. Every time I forgave, I felt freedom. Life became less about what I wanted and more about what love required. I began seeing my own selfishness clearly, and I began responding to it, not with shame, but with intentional correction. Transformation is ongoing. It does not end at one moment of surrender, one act of kindness, or one experience of grace. It stretches across every day, across every decision, across every heartbeat. And it is cumulative. Over time, Small acts of responsiveness build a life that reflects the love that saved it. A heart that once decayed can grow strong again. A life once self-focused can become outward-reaching. A person once blind to truth can begin to see the divine rhythm of grace.